What's up, everyone? Welcome. We are live right now on Cannabis, and if you're joining us on YouTube or Spotify, thank you so much for joining us. We have a great episode for you today. Make sure to hit like and subscribe and all those fun things. We have Michigan Matt on the show. If you're not familiar with Matt, we've interviewed Matt a few times in the past. He's a great grower on the commercial side of things up in Michigan. He's been getting results for years. He's been just has fantastic flower, and he just recently threw an event. So we wanted to connect with Matt, get some more indoor grow tips for all of our growers that watch the show. And we also wanted to talk about the great events that are going down in Michigan and just kind of get an update about what's going down in the great Mitten State. So, but before we do that, first, a couple shout outs. Shout outs to our friends in the Cannabis community. We do giveaways to folks that support us every month. So you can basically download our app, search Cannabis in the App Store. You can join for as little as $4.20 a month. But if you use the code BUZZ, you can get your first month free. And your support really helps us keep going. It helps us sponsor things like the Emerald Cup, and it helps us send out seeds. Like I was just saying, we sent out like 25 packs of seeds this month to supporters of the show. So we really appreciate it, and we'd love to see you over there. And then I'm going to throw it over to JR for some shout outs.
Yeah, we've got Tiki announcements. Still doing the summer sale. 40% off seeds plus a free pack at TikiSeeds.com. And this week, and today is your last day to get a hold of this, is the DR41, Dr. 41, which is Detroit Runts by 41BX. Those are regs, and the sale went on from the 22nd to the 1st. So the advantage of showing up and doing these lives is you get access to the seeds when we do our lives. The other thing I wanted to shout out was NeptuneSeedbank. He's still pushing that raw genetics mega OG. And if you go on my IG, you could see the fantastic results and how giddy like a schoolgirl I've been over. It's just crazy. Go ahead and check that out at NeptuneSeedbank.com. And yeah, that's what we got for those dudes today.
Awesome. And then last couple of shout outs, SacredThreeMushrooms.com. We did a great episode with Tanazi a few weeks back. If you want to grow your own mushrooms at home, get yourself a grow kit. You can even get syringes with spores in them. He's got directions. We did a whole video that broke it down step by step. So it's pretty much foolproof. You don't have to worry too much about messing things up with all these resources that are available to you. So check out SacredThreeMushrooms.com, and I believe you can use the code CANNABUZZ for a discount over there. And then lastly, LostCoastPlantTherapy.com. Lost Coast Plant Therapy is a really great IPM spray. I use it. I put it in a video the other day, and a guy commented, he's like, do you actually use this? I actually use it. I'm growing outside, and things are always coming into my plants. You know, we're halfway through flower, and the aphids and spider mites came out in the past week, and I needed to take those things down, and that's where I used Lost Coast Plant Therapy. So check out Lost Coast Plant Therapy, search them up on Amazon, get yourself some spray and take down those bugs, botrytis, powdery mildew, all that good stuff. All right, that's it. Done with the plugs. We're going to go to our friend Matt. Matt's on the show. Like I said at the top, he's been doing a great things up in Michigan. He's had the indoor grow going for a while. And then he also just had an event going on just recently. Isn't that right, Matt?
Yes, it is. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. It's been a minute, but it's going to be a fun show and good to catch up.
It's always good to get your butt in the chair. I know you're an extremely, extremely busy man, so it's always good to nail you down for a minute to get caught up. So like we said, if you've missed any of the previous episodes with Matt, we've done some really excellent grow talk over those series. And kind of in that vein of conversation, what has been going on with Faded lately?
Well, all is good. Everything is spinning. I have an excellent crew who can really execute the plan really well. And now that the kind of the plan's in place, the dials have been spun and put in their proper place. You know, everything's really come into its own. We just hit our first and second largest harvest, our past two harvests. We
Wow.
So it's a 48 light room. This is in wet grams, and I'll make the breakdown here in a second. In wet grams, the first room was about 506,000 wet grams. The second room was 488,000. Our previous record before that was like 410. So we absolutely crushed our records. What that translates to. So I've done a lot of data collecting over the past since like 2018, since being really in the commercial game out of every single harvest that I've done. And we're talking a couple hundred at this point, maybe a little less than a couple hundred. But I track them all and I collect the data so I can see like what wet weight kind of breaks down to. So about 12.5% of wet weight is what I get to sellable flour. That's like bigs and smalls. It's not necessarily like or there's like no trim involved in that. Trim's like 3.5% or something like that on average. So 12.5% of 506,000 is about 140 pounds of just straight flour that we got out of a 48 light room. So like just absolutely smashed. And now that that's kind of like come together and like really starting to be like I said, executed by the team, it allowed a little bit more free time for me so I can I decided to kind of dabble and see what I could pull together for a party. So I think that'll be the second half, but we can get into that too.
That's cool. So now, when you pull a room like that and you've got your drying and curing situation, well, I'm sure your instant stress is making sure that this gets to the customer in the most freshest, awesomest way possible. So, just lightly touch on some of those strategies to make sure that what they get on the shelf from Faded is as fire as it can be.
So there's a couple things. First off, like we are fortunate enough to sell out immediately. So like we'll like have our let's get into dry and cure and stuff, but we'll have our dry and cure, and then within like a day or so we'll have like at least 90% of the crop sold. Sometimes we hold on to a couple just in case there's some other customers. We only harvest once a month, but in case there's some other customers throughout the next couple weeks that might want something, so we'll hold on to like a small percentage of it. But for the most part, our stuff hits the shelves immediately. So if you're getting something from us, it's likely going to be like like within a month old from probably about from harvest to getting into the consumer's hand. Unfortunately, our it's great, and like it's great to get everything out there and not have to sit on things. But unfortunately, there's like all of our flour is wholesaled. So right now, deli style is like really big in Michigan. Getting out of the pre-packs. Pre-packs is like it's held for a very select part of the market, very high end brands or brands that have like good establishment as far as pre-packs. The dispensaries just I think are kind of running out of the room on their walls to put everybody's pre-pack up, and it gets a little chaotic. And so deli style has really made a huge comeback. So bulk sales are kind of the in thing right now. That you might see some brands that will put like most of their product into pre-pack still. But like I said, it's kind of some of the top brands. Whereas like if you have some other brands, they might be putting like a pound or two out of their harvest into pre-packs where everything else goes to wholesale. So there's strategies we can do to make sure that our product gets into the consumer's hand under our name. But like when you wholesale out stuff and I just wholesale in turkey bags, the smart dispensaries, they just take the product and rename the brand into their brand. So they don't even know that it comes from us. The only thing you can kind of track it by is the strain. So like looking for the strain itself is like the one thing I tell the people to like go look for. Like that's about the best I can do for you, just because white labeling and things like that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's so wild. Yeah, that's wild. So you can almost create kind of a hype within your community about, oh, hey, we know Faded's dropping this variety, and so if we go here, look for that strain.
Yeah, and it is look for the strain too, because like I said, like most of these dispensaries and groups we work with have their own brands too, and if they can get their hands on some really good products, which I pride myself in the fact that we can do that, then they're gonna likely just turn that over into some other spin-off brand. There are a couple of clients that we have that honor us and still sell us under our name, but it's just probably like a very small percentage.
It's the name of the game, yeah.
But like we can get into like the dry cure, like so the dry and curing, like so we harvest, right? So we go between 62 to 67 days in a flower room. We're harvesting where temperatures are around 76 during the day, 77 during the day when we're finishing. So we'll harvest a whole room in a day. We bring in an extra crew to kind of help us pick leaves because we like to defoil all the fan leaves off before we hang it. Whole plant hang. We have like S hooks and like real big long like trellis like kind of nets that stand vertically, and they're on unistruts, so they can be like is unistruts their word? They're on struts anyways, where they can like be wheeled, so like I can push them up against the wall and collapse everything down if I need to. But that room sits at, I like to try to keep that room at 62 degrees and 54%. And that room stays that way the entire time. I don't try to make any kind of changes from there. And that's our vault too. So that's our vault cure room. That's our dry room. That's everything all in one. And if I just like, people like to move things into vaults and stuff, but like maybe the temperature varies or the humidity swings in between rooms. That dry room is like acclimated to the point where I want my flower to smoke. Like that's the humidity levels that I'm aiming for with my cure. If I can like do that and run that, just there's no reason to kind of even pull it out of the room until it's being sold.
I think so too. And I think Jay Maestro always says, if you've got those conditions dialed in and you're on the whole plant hang, you just pick off what you need as you need it, and it just gets better and better over the curing time.
Yeah, so we cure for like we'll harvest on a Tuesday. It'll sit on the racks until the following Friday, so that's about 12 days, 11 days, something like that. Then we get rid of like the bulk stems, like all the big stem that we don't need. Obviously, like there's when the plant stretches and you don't have nodes or any bud sites, we get rid of the chunk. It makes sense for most of us, I think. And we break things down into branches so they're like more manageable, and we put those into totes. And then the trim crew, so that's it, that's on a Friday. It sits Saturday and Sunday, well, with no lids or anything like that, just wide open to the room still. Trimmers come on Monday. They trim Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I have testing done on Thursday, and that way by Monday, Tuesday the following week it's ready for sale.
Beautiful. That's really nice, and that's a good system for folks too.
It makes it simple. The trimmers, we can talk trim crews, but I'd rather not. We've gone through a few of them, and the one that we have now just absolutely crushes with our style. And I think their style matches our style, and they're pulling off like our last one hand trimmed was at $72 a pound, which is like $15 to $16 less than what we've ever had. So they have a very good system in place too.
Nice. That's really cool. So we were talking about people looking for your strains. What are the strains that you're growing these days?
So a lot of the same stuff that I've been before, but thanks to JR, I've had a few additions. So with the blue slushies, that's like halfway through flower right now. It's just starting to bulk really nice. I think it's like day 36, 37, something like that. But that's getting a good bulk on it. The jelly gushers did really well for us. The cherry paloma still does really well for us. Let's see, GMO is probably our most demanding strain, or not demanding, like most high demand strain, the strain that like we can sell for the most amount of money and we get pretty much the most amount of flour off of. But that's really tricky too. Like some certain strains, I'm learning so much more about leaf surface temperature and how it affects certain strains over others. And like the shorter squatty, like Scroopy Noopers is one of them that we like really like. And that one stays kind of like a little smaller, bushier. My black maple stays kind of small, like where it doesn't have like a lot of stretch. It seems those can like take a little bit higher leaf surface temperature than others, where like GMO type strains, those kind of stretchy strains, I've seen air conditioners go out too many times now to like then witness what a high leaf surface temperature does to the plant, and like how the stress it can cause late in flower and the foxtailing and things like that. So like it's just interesting learning like each strain and how to like, even like it breaks down to how I position them in the room based on where the AC falls.
Yeah.
And like I've finally kind of manipulated GMO to the point where I can put it in the right spot in the room where I can get it to finish within like 63 days. And it's a good flower, and it tests at 30+%, which people are drooling over. So we still like it. Like I've been growing it since 2018 and or 2016, and I still love growing that plant.
So, you've been running gear now in this facility for some time. If you did have to pick a top 3 that you've seen come and go, what are your top 3?
So actually, we've been open since Tuesday will be 2 years. The day after Labor Day is when we open. So my top strains, the permanent marker is like, and it's like kind of a hype strain right now, but like that is my favorite smoke. Like it was really, it manipulated me. It's kind of funny. Like the plant grew so like, I was like, this is like, I'm watching it grow for the first time. I'm like, this plant is like, I'm not going to want to even smoke this. Like, it just didn't look good. And that's me too. Like there's certain things, like if I see it growing crappy and I know it grew crappy and I grew it crappy, like I'm kind of like, I'm probably not going to smoke that one. That's just me. But like, so I was like kind of looking at that and judging the book by the cover. I'm like, this is not that great. And like the last week it finished really nice. And then we got it into cure and we smoked a joint of it, and the taste of it was just so fantastic that I was like, oh, this is like my new favorite right now.
Yeah.
So that's
kind of how I felt.
so.
That's kind of how I feel about that Mega OG, is it? And strangely enough, as it does kind of have in the beginning a kind of a permanent marker type taste to it as well, and the smell kind of translates into the flavor too. Also, so what other ones?
I'd say that's my top. My next go-to is probably black maple, and this is that's a strain that I hunted and found. So there's I think that's the breeder cut, the Harry Palms Bloom Seed breeded it. I'm pretty sure it's the breeder cut that goes around, at least around Michigan, or there might be another cut that somebody else has found, but mine grows really like OGKB style, like really runty and like throws off a lot of different like duck feet kind of like leaves, you know. And I reached out to them and they said there's no OGKB throughout that line. So it's not that, but it still throws these like weird leaves, you know, like these weird, like duck footed kind of, it grows real short. So I grew like a unicorn poop, and I'm pretty sure that had an OGKB, and it's kind of same thing. It just didn't stretch a lot, but the flower is just phenomenal. It's just a great flower. So ours doesn't stretch a lot. So we do a couple things to make up for not being able to fill a canopy with like the normal amount of plants that we would put in there. Excuse me. So I am well aware that this is a very slow veg plant and is very slow stretcher in flower. So I clone it about 10 to 14 days earlier than everything else in the room, like that is going to be going into the next one. So it gets like in a 1 gallon, it's getting almost 3 full weeks, if not a little bit more. And like that allows that to get more time to root out in that 1 gallon before I bring it into the 3 gallons along with everything else. And by that time, giving it that extra like 10 days or so, really like helps it catch up to everything else. Like everything else, like maybe for the first week won't be caught up for it, but by like day 14 or so, they're all like drinking the same. They're really like similar. So that's how we kind of bring that in to fit the system. And then knowing that it's not going to stretch and flower a lot and doesn't produce a ton of flower, we just packed more plants in the table. So we typically do like 66 plants in a table. We can do like 69 to like 76 or 75 into a table. Is that divisible? Yeah, 75, something like that.
So is most of your product
You're on mute, I think there.
You're on mute, Q.
Yeah, I'm on mute on the Zoom side. Sorry
and you
about that,
still
guys.
are. There you go.
Yeah, so for your brand, is most of the end product that's flower, do you have a certain percentage of your product like turns into concentrates? Because where we're going with this is oftentimes in these sorts of conversations, people pick strains that, wash better or what have you. Kind of curious how that goes into your decision-making process.
That's not part of our SOPs or procedures or our playbook right now. Like it's definitely something we can get into in the future, but we're just not there right now. We have a processing lab that's taken a while to try to get up and running, but even when that gets up, there's just not much of a market for what we would be looking for. If we got into like some really fine like live rosin, then we might dedicate like a small percentage of our harvest to it, but that would require a lot more labor, where I bring in more people and have to, put that expense up in order to like get it frozen.
Get the return. Yeah.
Yeah, and then get it
Yeah.
all frozen, and then there's the test, and everybody wants to run tests to make sure it goes well, which I'm sure my product would, but that's not really something I look at personally. I understand that's where the industry is, and a lot of people do, but like we're not a huge grow. We have 160 total lights. There's 248 light flower rooms. So we're not like this massive, like mass producing so much flower that we need to like figure out something else to do with it.
Right.
We've kind of struck our lane. We kind of know where our lane is, and we're kind of like sticking to that for now. Everybody's kind of happy. We're not like making a killing off this grow, but we're making enough to float and like pay our bills and to pay our employees and keep things open. So that's kind of like where that's at. But increased yields obviously will help that. Like by me hitting record yields, and if I can maintain that, that'll help obviously offset some of those expenses. But so everything
I like that idea though, Matt, that the fact that you guys are a flower driven kind of brand and company, because I don't want to see all the genetics selecting be for washing, because that just bottlenecks our gene pool even more that we've already experienced over the last 10 years. And so I like seeing these diversities, and Q sent me the winners for the Emerald Cup. And if you look at it, they had a lot of categories. And in every category, there was a big diversity in flavors being represented. And I thought that was really cool. Would you say that's kind of still a thing in Michigan, where you do have a good variety of flavors available?
Oh yeah, and yeah, absolutely. And like, there's a lot of the top growers are going through massive hunts and like doing their own finds, but or like breeding their own at this point. I think of like Michigan and Society Seeds and some of these other guys that like put their own genetics together too. And yeah, there I would say the big guys are really good at keeping their selections turning. Like that Z terp is like really popular right now, so you get a lot of the Zopes or the Yuzus, and like I'm thinking of like some of these other top guys that are running some of that stuff. That I think what you see in Michigan is you see a lot of, at least at the top of like the high quality growers, is you see a lot of different type of selection and diversity like throughout the brands, if that makes sense.
That's good.
JR threw in this question that he wants me to ask. He always likes getting like horror stories out of people. So were there any like big mishaps or anything like that that happened in the past year or two, and how did you have to respond to that?
So I'm not gonna like get into drama, but I mean, having to deal with some of these trim crews and these girls get really attached is like it's tough sometimes. So I'm just gonna leave that there. I'm not gonna dig too much deeper in there or throw anybody else under the bus. But I will say, like, if these people are listening and they like come towards my employees again, it's not going to be good for them. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, yeah, that sucks. It even has to go there. And so, like within
yeah,
Grow
sorry,
Talk,
yeah, no, it's words I was definitely getting there. That's why I didn't want to like
Matt's
spend a
like
ton of
throwing it
time
out.
on it.
Come
I'm not
on.
trying to like, yeah. All right, so let's go into the Grow. So my biggest one so far, and this is something that I don't know why I didn't think of earlier or why I didn't do earlier, but equipment for like automation or any type of like grow equipment like that shouldn't be in the grow room. Like unless you have sensors and stuff, obviously part of it, then there's some things that must be, right? But like if you can have like an outside wall that you can mount like most of your controllers to, and like have your wiring go to the outside wall and then wire in from there, it's a lot more advantageous to like not have problems. It's usually typically drier outside the room. There's no humidifiers that can damage wires or get water into controller boxes or anything like that. So expanding on that, so we had our humidifier is called the Cool Fog, and the Cool Fog is like it's if you go to like in California or like somewhere where like it's hot in the summer, but they have like patio seating and they have the misting, like the mist sprayers. That's what basically we have that technology in our grow. So like that is how we keep our rooms to proper humidity levels. And that was, we had one dripping and it drips into a controller box. and shorted a bunch of wires, which the wires, it's just all jacked up from an install. It basically shut down like all the lights in the whole facility. And like I had to like when things like that happen, you have to like start at one point and like start okay and trace it and like okay, so it wasn't this, okay, so start over and go this way, okay, so it was part of this, okay, let's keep going and see if where else it can take us to figure out what the issue
The failure
was.
point, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And what it ended up being was the humidifier dripping right into a controller box, which blew a bunch of the what are they, the Ethernet RJ12s is something like that. Those like Ethernet type cords. You could look at it and then you look at the little pins and they're all black, so you know that that's blown.
Yeah.
So that, and then having to rewire those, like from cutting wire and like putting the little connector on. I'm not an electrician. I can do a little bit, but like it's so tedious to
Yeah.
put each one of those tiny little wires inside the right
connector.
parameter of oh my god, that took me a good like 2-3 days before I start. Well, I mean, I was throwing stuff in the middle, but you know.
I had a question for you before we move on to the last couple questions in this like section. You were talking about deli style. I was curious, since Michigan is deli style, which is like so foreign to me because in California that died a long time ago. Do you find yourself having to grow strains that are you selecting strains that look a certain way or smell a certain way because you want to like grab the buyer's attention? Because I'm assuming that since it's deli style, they have the ability to like smell it and look at it at the store.
Yeah, so let's dive right into deli style for a second. Just like we can talk
Yeah.
about that. I know like there's a lot of portion of the Michigan consumer who's been burned by prepacks. And like whether they like got one time that was amazing and they went back and got the same thing again and it was not anything the same like what they got it from the first time.
I see.
Also, those prepacks are sitting on the shelves for longer. The rooms aren't stored at the proper humidity, so good brands are going to dust. And you'll see a lot of people complaining about how dusty their flour is when they're breaking it up. So I think the consumer has been burned so much that now they're like, I'd rather feel, see, and touch if I can, and like or smell at least. And I think that's kind of what it is getting into. As far as me and like picking my strains based on that, it's not really that for me. Unfortunately, it still is a percentage thing for me. Like, what does the wheat or the flour like test at? Like, but I also keep a diverse selection because I can't have everything at 30+%. Because if I just grow only that, then the customer's not gonna like pay just the top dollar for everything. Like they want a variety from us, and they want some of those like 27 percenters or 24 percenters that they can buy at like 900 to 1,000 versus 12 to 1,400 on like the 30 percenters. Like that's important savings to them, and that allows them to buy more especially these mom and pop shops that buy like 1 pound each. They're buying like we have 7 different strains. They can buy 7 different strains, not all at 1,400 price point. They can get a couple of them at 1,000, which they're more comfortable with maybe doing. And so there's that's kind of more the strategy that plays into it more than anything. Sure, like pretty flour probably does a little bit better, but I think like well cured flour is like the best thing for that deli style, because then they come back, they get that same like they get that same selection, or they can be like, no, I don't really want that nug. Do you think we can like, can you grab that nug? Like there's just a little bit more to it.
That's how it's always been in Oregon. We've always been that way. We have very little prepackaged stuff on the shelves. But whenever the shop is representing a numbers driven type thing, with you coming at 30s and 24s and stuff like that, at the end of the day you're still selecting for flavor, aroma, and all those things, but you're trying to kind of pocket it into those kind of numbers categories.
So that's just one thing that plays into it, and that it's not like that's what when I'm making my selections for a room, like what 7 strains to run, I'm like, okay, let's do 4 of these that are higher testers, but let's do 3 of these that are a little less. Or maybe we're in like January, January, February, and it's like um like the market's like really slowed up, so maybe we'll flip that ratio and do like 5 of the lower percentage strains, because we know that people are only wanting to buy at 900 a pound or something like that right now. When I make my selections, I'm making my selections very grow specific. Like, sure, it's always flower that I want to smoke. Like, I never want to grow something that I don't want to smoke. So that's like number one. I feel like I have this perfectionism trait anyways, that like I just want everything to be perfect. And I want that flower to be perfect too. I want it to taste like it smells, like all that. I want that all to check the box. But more importantly, it needs to be able to fit the grow. And there's like a lot of different parameters that require to what I mean by like fit the grow. So it's got to be able to fit our grow style. Like, it's got to be able to fit within our environmental climates. It's got to fit within our EC ranges, our volumes, or our volume of water fed to them, but also like the right EC ranges. I'm not going to go through and make 3 different reses for one room. I want all 7 to be able to eat. It's very similar. But the most important thing is to make sure that my guys are they have like as least stress as possible. So like when I am selecting my rooms too, I'm really selecting on what strains are easy for them to prune to get through the fastest, so they don't have to be stressed out over a full week of like, oh my god, this was so tedious. Like, maybe I'll put, like, honestly, they said blue slushies was one of the worst strains that they've ever had to like do it within the grow. We're still going to run it a few times to see if they still feel that way, but like, knowing that, or knowing what the really bad ones are, and only putting like 1 or 2 of those in the room, and then filling out the rest of the room with easier things for them. Or maybe I'll run like a mandarin butter, which is like another one of those shorter strains that don't have a lot of leaves or nodes. So, or what's another one for us? Fruit stripe, which is like real grapey gas kind of. And like that one like stays squat, puts these big nuggets out that are really easy to work with and like to prune and work on. That's like really the most important part for us. So that way, like, they can knock out a prune in like 3 to 4 days instead of having to take a whole week. Like, when we have to be in there from Monday to Friday, and they're like, by the time they get to Friday, they're like,
That's soul crushing.
very much. And like, it only happens once a month, but
Yeah.
we're a small crew. There's only 4 of us total. 4.5. We have a part-timer who comes a couple times a week, or a couple times a month. But yeah, we're very small, so we try to keep things like very easy and simple. And I want my days to go by easy with these guys. I want them to be well accommodated, because when they, and here maybe is a good transition, I don't know where we are on the talking, but when they can like execute the plan, knock things out, I don't have to be there for 3 to 4 days in a row. Then I can really start to focus my attention on some other things. And like, for them, I always tell them, they're always going to be involved in anything that I do, because that's the way that I feel about their work ethic. Like, I would always include them within things. So when I do a party or something like that, like, they're like top guests, obviously. Like, it's very important for them to feel just as involved in some of these things that I'm doing now outside the grow.
Yeah.
Well, before we go into the next segment, then you should give this crew the shout outs. You'd like shout out these folks that are crucial parts of the team.
So Devin. So we got Devin, Adam, Mike, and Shelby. So Devin is Devin Johns on Instagram, or Devin's Insta. None of them really like post anything. So Shelby is Miss Cantaloupe. She's actually been within the community a little bit. She has a little bit of a name, so you could probably follow her. These other guys, I don't think they like. Maybe Devin doesn't really post. Like, I don't think that they post much, but yeah, these are the guys that are integral to my success. These are the guys that the 3 of them I have really been able to just kind of take over, and they challenged me to be better too, which is important.
That's great. That's great. And so now, any new grow tech that's kind of piqued your interest lately within this last year since we've talked to you?
I don't know about necessarily tech. Like, I'm trying to think of what we're kind of like, we're doing like little things, like trying to dial it the right pair of scissors in, like, and to have the right pair for pruning, so that way they're not like always getting gummed up or dulled out, or like, we're experimenting with different types of knife sharpeners or scissor sharpeners to like to make sure that like those little tools, those little things that we use on a day-to-day basis are like pristine and like on point. Like having like a clean pair of scissors that makes a smooth, easy cut is like much different than like having a pair of scissors that make like this like half butt kind of cut, you know, that it just doesn't like make a clean cut. Like dialing those kind of little things in is always important too.
Wait.
I don't know.
Well, then that
I'm not
begs the
sure. Like
question. I think next year, Elon is releasing the Optimus. So, how soon before you're going to have Optimus in the grow de-leafing, so your guys can focus on other stuff?
um so we all have to be prepared for AI. I think that's a really good like point to be made. And like the questions that we should be asking is like, how can I train AI to do what I do? Like, how can I be the ones that program the AI to do what we need them to do? Because the AI is coming, and like, Q, you're very techy. Like, I'm sure you maybe feel the same way, but like, there's going to be a lot of labor loss throughout all industries with the way the AI is going to be moving. So, it's like, sure, I'd love something like that to go in. Like it's going to come down to the day where there's going to be the brain, right, which is going to be whatever it is that you're communicating with, and then there's going to be all the different sensors throughout the grow and everything else. You're going to have your droids just flying around and being the eyes, and you're going to have the Optimus being the hands, and you're going to have everything is just going to be to that point. So I don't want to like replace my guys at this point with AI.
We need you guys.
I'd rather have their touch on the plants too. Like I think there's still something to be had about like the energy and symbiosis between human and plant. You know, there's still something there too. So that's something that AI won't ever be able to do. Like they won't have that same energy touch, or you know, our microbes going onto their microbes or whatever. You know, there's something else there. But being prepared and not being ignorant to the fact that AI is coming is important for I think any commercial grower, and like being able to start to ask the right questions. I think, and that's all with the commands with and prompts with AI too, where just you got to just learn how to ask questions, and like and then you know it can be kind of shaped from there,
and you get cool backgrounds like this.
There you go. I'll be honest though, like AI is a part of the grow right now. I use ChatGPT when I need to with certain things, especially like compliance things. I can be like, hey, what does metrics say about this? Or what does CRA, which is our Cannabis Regulatory Association or whatever administration, what does the code say about this? And it'll go in there and find that for me. And so I don't have to like Google the document to look through which code it is to figure out, you know, like, so there's that part of it. But AI was like, I told my brother this. I said, if it wasn't for AI being a partner in this party that I throw, I would have never been able to do it. Like being able to have that in my pocket to be able to ask any question that I had and not be like, who should I ask this question to? It's like it was a very useful tool.
Yeah, and the most recent version of ChatGPT gives you kind of your own personal bot that you can kind of train and talk to. And when they can book trips and send emails and be your real personal assistant, it's going to be fire.
They're working on it. Google's definitely working on that right now. Yeah, we live in weird times. Holding a baby, I was thinking about like, what do I even tell him to kind of job to do? I have no idea, but thankfully he's got a little bit of time before he needs to think about it. Well, let's talk about that event that you just threw.
Yeah.
So like, for those that don't know, what was it? It just happened a couple of weeks ago. Is that right?
Yeah. So I want to give like a 30,000 foot view of this whole thing, but so I threw a party. I named it the Growers Gala. It wasn't gala and just name only, but I've been growing since 2009 when Michigan came online, and so I was 23 years old, 24 years old, something like that. And I wasn't like super serious into it until about 2012, 13, where I was like, you know, how can I make my shed bigger and like start to get into like those type of expanding ideas. And then 2014, I started in the retail. So in retail, I met a lot of company reps. In that time, I made a lot of different relationships with a lot of different companies, a lot of different people that have switched companies since that time, but we've maintained the same relationship, and now I might have a relationship with that company. So I've been growing. I grew the entire time. I grew while I was at retail, but the retail side really helped me open up my mind to I was like, it would take me like a cycle or two to get through a gallon of nutrients, and then I was seeing these guys come in and buying 5-gallon jugs once a month, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, how are these guys going through so much? And that allowed me to, like, I started asking myself the right questions, but it got me into my first like commercial grow, I guess you could call it, in 2014, where it's like a warehouse where I had 40 lights. And I ran that from 2014 to 2018. And so 2016 is when I got out of 2015 I got out of retail. So I've made a lot of retail connections in my time at that spot. And then as I started growing as well, and like getting more in the commercial side of the grow, I met a lot of different growers. So I met a lot of different especially these top guys that are like some of the top brands in the state now. I've maintained and I have relationships with them since around 2018 and on, when I kind of got into the state game. So I've been cultivating a lot of relationships for about 10 years, and I just realized I went to a party, and like the girl does a really good job. They're called Cannababe. They're like they do like a monthly party or something like that
That's cool.
throughout Michigan, and there's different spots. Like we have an NECon coming, and that's going to be the end of September. She's doing like a post NECon party. So this is like more late night parties, like 9 to 2 type parties, 9 to 9 till in the morning type parties.
Hell yeah.
A little bit more clubby, and like, but I looked at her and I looked at the ZA Olympics, which I think you guys have ZA Olympics in California too. Is that right?
Yeah. I went down there in LA and I went to the ZA Olympics with Brad.
ZA Olympics is run by Tyler with Exotic Matter in Michigan, and they do a really good job. And they had an awesome party last year, and so I'm starting to like go to a little bit more parties and see things getting done. And I'm like, okay, so how are they doing this? And I like I said, with AI and asking the right questions, I started kind of getting into what if I did a party, like what would that look like? And I teamed with somebody else for a quick minute, and we were going to go in one direction, and it didn't work out. So I kind of just spun off immediately. And I said, what are my strengths? What can I play to Michigan Matt? You know, I've been kind of building this persona since I think I started my Instagram in 2017. How can I like lean on that to start something? And I'm like, well, what do I know? I know growers, and and I know like a lot of people, the ancillaries, the growers, and a lot of like, I started kind of putting those things together. And honestly, with Canna, I had a couple dinners with Canna, and they kind of gave me the kind of idea on this too, to give him some credit. And because they kind of said, you know, Canna's got this budget kind of just sitting here, and if we don't use it, then we lose it. And so I, you know, used that, and I used these other parties, and I said, okay, if I can lean into something, I why not throw like a grower's appreciation? And like they have the bud tender appreciations, they have other types of appreciation nights, but I'm like, what about the grower appreciation? What about the growers? These are the guys that we are the industry, right? Like without us being able to grow the product, there's no product to be had to be extracted. There's no product to be dispensed. There's no product to be transported. There's nothing without us out there doing what we're doing. So why not honor us? And so I kind of started doing that. I started putting some feelers out and building an attendee list, and I ended up with a lot of the top brands in the state. I keep saying that, but I have a lot of respect for a lot of these guys that showed support, but also that have been putting the work and the effort in over these past years to build Michigan's market. Like in sidetrack, so Michigan's the biggest cannabis sales market in the country now. We overtook California, so and these are the guys that were all part of that. Like, let's honor these guys. And then if I were to do this, obviously I can't do this for free, but I don't want them to pay for it. Like, I don't want them to like this is supposed to honor them. And I said, well, so what would bring value? And I wanted my sponsors and I wanted my attendees to both feel like they got value out of this event.
Yeah, word.
So the sponsors that I kind of reached for were ancillary companies to growers, right? So I got Canna to sponsor, I got Advanced Nutrients to sponsor, Agrotech, Seed Junkie, um, a local store, Hydro Depot, Heavyweight Heads. We had a slew of just different contributors. I want to say there's at least 15 to 20 other people that contributed in some way or another, whether it be flour, because that's what some of the growers were like, hey, we want to throw down on this party. How can we throw down? And like when the attendee list filled, we sold a couple sponsorship packages to some growers, but most of them were like, hey, well, how much, like, what if we brought some flour? And I started getting this idea of bringing like these pre-rolls. So instead of doing for the parties, so that we kind of get it here. Let me slow down. Do you guys got any things to say now before I keep going?
No, keep
No,
going.
keep going. Okay. All right.
Yeah, no,
So,
because I want you to really kind of break it down, because I think these regional events will be strength to our community and strength to our industry, and kind of unite those together, because we still need each other in a big way if we're going to be able to take on what's coming down the road. You know what I mean?
I agree. It was a great networking type of an event. Like I don't want to use the word networking. We had a party and everybody partied, but it was like we got us all together and everybody's like, and this, I'm sorry, I'm jumping way ahead here, but people were like, hey, I was having a conversation with one guy, but I had to break it off early because there's like 6 other conversations that I had to go have. I mean, like, all right. So sorry, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So what I did is I started like planning this. So it was a private event, and I invited about 300 or 250 growers. And this like included like the brand. So I would say, hey, like I reached out to like Flower Power, let's say, and I was like, hey man, like I want to invite you and all of your growers. So it was like him and like the 3 growers that he's got underneath him that showed. So like it wasn't just like just the head guy of the brand itself, but like the actual people that are in there every day grinding it out and growing too. And these guys are also, a lot of them are still caregivers at home or like small growers at home too. So these guys like have, where
Whatever.
yeah,
Various activities.
yeah, they're still involved with growing at some level, even like owning their own, was what I'm trying to say, whether they're even with a grow or not, but they have their 12 plants in the closet even, or whatever it might be. So I wanted to honor like kind of everywhere in that way. So I invited them. I started landing the sponsors, putting it together, and then the event itself. I thought to myself, with some of these growers, they have pretty much what they need, right? Like, so I didn't want to like have like a Puffco giveaway, because like if somebody wants a Puffco, they're gonna go get their Puffco. Like it's not like a big deal. So we had a couple prizes sponsored. One was from Advanced. They sponsored a video package that in the prizes that I wanted to get. And unfortunately, I only got 2, but I wanted it to be like grow centered. Like it's not like this isn't a winning prize for the head grower or for the owner of the company. This is like a spotlight of the entire grow and the growers included. And then like Grove bags was another one. They donated to 200 pounds worth of Grove bags, and that was
That's
another
so
giveaway.
cool.
So like it's stuff that like benefited the entire grow themselves and not just like the individual. And that I really was pushing for this party to not be a competition. Everybody's like, what are we competing on? What, like, is it a joint rolling contest, or what is there percentages? Like what's the competition? And I kept stressing, it's not a competition. This is like a cooperation. Like this is getting everybody together. And so I was able to raise enough money to obviously secure the venue, and then I spent probably over close to half the budget on food. Like I wanted everybody
Yum.
to experience like a really good food selection. Like that was really important for me. It was important for, like, I was thinking to myself, like when I went to these other events, like when I left those events, how did I feel?
Yeah.
And so I kept asking myself, like, how do I want these people to leave or feel when they left? I want them to feel like they had a good time, they experienced awesome food, the atmosphere was right. So and it worked. And so some of the other stuff, when I was like getting the contributions from some of the growers, I was getting pre-rolls. So we had like in our back room, I want to say we had 600 to 700 pre-rolls, and there's only 300 guests. So
Yeah.
we had instead of dollar shot girls, we had joint girls. So I had these girls like put a selection of joints on the tray, and they'd go out and offer, here, do you want a joint? You want a joint? We had a donut rolling bar. So like the rosin inside the flowers. So they pre-made like 300 little snakes at their lab, and then they brought
Oh,
those
cool.
in, and then they used a
Right.
combination of my flour and some other flour, and they just rolled them live right there. So everything was rolled fresh, so everybody could like see the entire process, which is I thought was kind of cool. You could see like the snake getting laid and that type of stuff.
So what did you do for sorry to interrupt you.
It's okay.
So what did you do for media, like to kind of make sure people got good pictures and kind of documented the event?
There was so many people and so many different types of people who reached out to me, and that I've made relationships over the last couple of months of doing this. And like I had 3 different people there that offered to do types of videos, pictures and stuff in exchange for a ticket. And I'm like, yeah, come on
Nice.
in. So we had like 3 different angles of it actually all playing out. And there's other influencer types that ended up at the party too that made their own just on their own. So we had like a lot of different types of media collaborations that was able to promote it pretty well, and like put those like minute long video clip things together, you know. So we had like that, and we had a little DJ. Like the DJ wasn't like much, it wasn't like dance music, but he had a good mix of like just house music. But everybody was there having a good time. They everybody, as soon as they walked in the door, they got an eighth of flour. So like that was just a kind of a greeting, hey, welcome, here you go. And I think that we kept it really family. So my niece was in town, my brother was in town, his girlfriend, my wife. Like we brought everybody in on this family wise, and like really kind of try to give it that type of atmosphere. We actually had one person give feedback that said, I didn't really know what to expect, but I was kind of expecting the really corporate type event. And I walked in and it was absolutely nothing like that. It was all family oriented. It was all chill. Everything there, if they saw something there, was free. Like nothing cost any type of money. So it turned out really well. I got extremely
You did it
good
right,
feedback.
Matt. You did it right. You did
Yeah,
it good.
I thank you. And like it's I couldn't have been more blown away by the positive feedback that I got. I had one piece of negative feedback, and like they recanted immediately. They're like, no, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. And like everybody was just like on the vendors, like Mike from Agritech. Yeah, I think he came up to me 3 times in the first hour. He like, I can't believe how good this event is. Like, this is amazing. I've never done anything like this before.
That's so cool.
And it's not, yeah.
Oh,
please.
sorry. Sorry to cut you off there. So with Michigan's laws, was this essentially just a party, or did you have to have? Because we would just talk to Tim from the Emerald Cup, and that's like a very like licensed event, and they have to jump through so many hoops because people are selling weed there. This is a bit different. So I was just kind of curious, did you run into any issues on that end?
Compliance wise and legally, no, we did not.
That's cool.
So this was a private party. So because it was a private party where everybody was invited to the party, it allowed us a lot of freedom. And the municipality in which that we held the event is very friendly to cannabis events. The place that we held it at was a former consumption lounge. So like it had experience as that type of an event space as well. So no, we didn't have to do anything compliance wise. However, in the future, I am working on a couple of things that would probably require compliance.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, I don't want to like give too much away, but I'm trying to merge the worlds of music and cannabis and have cannabis concerts where these are like real concerts that I can advertise on the radio, like a regular concert would be, but it's cannabis being sold there, not alcohol.
Do they have like cannabis event licenses in Michigan?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that type of event would need that license, and then we could sell a sponsorship package to a dispensary who then could come in and set up a kiosk,
right,
and then sell flour there as well.
That makes sense. Yeah, because in California, like you have to have someone has to have the retail license to be able to sell it, and you know there's so many different licenses.
A lot of fuckery.
Yeah,
it's similar.
Yeah, and then on the event license side, you have to get a license to have events, and then I think there's like a certain amount of events or number of events that your license allows you to hold per year. It's kind of interesting space.
The way that we do it, Michigan does it, if you have to get the event space license, it's just a temporary license. It's like a 1-day license. It takes 90 days to apply for it and go through it. But I think you can get it up to a week. I think is like the most, the longest it goes for. But like as soon as the contract or the license is expired, like it's done. Like it's not like you're holding a license that says you can only have X amount.
That you're
It's
like an
just
event
like,
producer or whatever it is.
right.
Yeah,
It's just here's a license for the
for this
event.
event. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really
So
cool.
one of the strategies that Tim talked about with Emerald Cup, them moving to Oakland, is that a big population of the attendance is going to be within a 45-mile range of where you're having the event. Do you think that kind of holds true for you as well?
Yeah, and I held the event in the Metro Detroit area. However, I had quite a few people from the west side of the state, which Muskegon is a good 2.5 hour drive maybe from where the event was, and I want to say there's at least 3 or 4 different grows that were represented from over there. So I was really kind of shocked to see them make that trip. But I would say the majority of the growers and the grows that are kind of the more relevant grows are within that commute of where I had it. Flint, where I have my grow, is maybe an hour drive. So like that's probably about as far of reaching as it would be, about an hour without circumference or so.
So before we go, because I've got a little baby that's making noises in the background, so I'm gonna have to run in a bit. But before we go, you sent me a graphic that was kind of Halloweeny, so I can put it up
Yeah.
on the screen. Do you want to speak to what that is?
Yeah, so I soft launched this over the week, but we can hard launch it now. Where that event with the Growers Gala went so well, and I had so much good feedback that people were like, "Dude, you need to do another one." And I was gonna wait till the spring to throw the next Growers Gala, but the momentum I've been told that I have going, and like the flow, that how awesome that one went. I decided to this isn't necessarily like a growers gala, but this is more like a state license party where like all 5 license types, the growers. Well, I'm sorry. Here, let me rephrase that. The growers and the processors are the two that are going to be most the invitees. So these are processors are obviously the concentrate makers, and then the other 3 invitees will be like the second round, which will be like secure transporters, dispensary owners or bud tenders, and the testing facilities. So it's more, it's called, and I put an I in there. Yes, I know it's not spelled that way, but for licensing purposes, I called it the metric mash. So it's like it's gonna be the week before Halloween. Same place. I'm basically copy and pasting how the last one was, except a couple slight variations to like food and stuff like that.
Awesome.
But
Cool.
sponsors, I'm looking for sponsors now. Sponsorships open. I'm looking for attendees here. I'm going to be starting making those calls and stuff on, I believe, Wednesday after Memorial or Labor Day here. So yeah, this party is going to start rolling here in about the next week or so.
Awesome.
Hell yeah. I hope you crush it, brother. Hope you
I
crush
appreciate
it.
it. Thank you.
Well, we're gonna hand the mic over to you one last time. Any sort of shout outs, websites that people should go to, anything like that you want to plug?
So I'll try to make this quick, but these events aren't the last thing or the only thing that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing. I have another event I'm planning for winter. Is called Dank Dining, which is going to be an infused 6-course meal from a chef, where you're going to have selections of whether you want infused food or not infused food, but also tastings in between with like concentrates and that type of stuff too. So that's in the works for the spring. The concerts thing is kind of in the works. That doesn't necessarily have necessarily a date. And then the next Growers Gala is going to be like, I believe I'm going to change the venue. It's going to be a little bit bigger, and we're going to go a little bit bigger party for the next one. And that is going to be sometime around Memorial Day.
That's awesome. I really like as someone who goes to concerts, I really like the idea, because obviously alcohol is intertwined with concerts. I like that's how a lot of the venues make their money, period, is through alcohol. So it's just so much of a part of it. And if you're someone who doesn't want to drink much or drink at all, or doesn't want to get drunk on a Tuesday night or whatever it is, it's kind of frustrating. You want to be able to enjoy some weed, and obviously people smoke joints here and there, but it'd be nice to be able to do it without the stigma. And then also it'd be fun if I didn't have to bring my own, and I could go to the in the venue and maybe try something new. I don't know. That would be pretty fun.
That'd be fun. The way I thought about it, so this is gonna be an indoor venue, so you're not gonna have to be like, like hiding where you're smoking and stuff. Like, it's gonna be open consumption. Like, feel free to light up. And like, honestly, like nobody's gonna stop anybody. People didn't really stop people before bringing weed into a concert. I don't think anybody's really gonna stop anybody bringing little shooters in. If you wanted to bring a shooter in, like people are gonna drink beforehand or whatever they're gonna drink. But yeah, the big thing is like where to make up for the liquor sales, like how to make up for that lost revenue,
Yeah.
and that's got to be worked
Yeah.
out, like with that dispensary
Yeah.
that's going to be
Yeah.
promoting. So things are in the work. I have a venue in place and an owner who's extremely engaged, and a municipality who's also opted into this type of thing. So we're getting close to doing something. And if it's something, like, I'm not getting like a small band. Like, I'm into rock music and a good rock music. I know this place has hosted bands like Shinedown before, so I'm not saying that would be the band, but that's like the style and the
like the level of
the
band.
caliber.
Yeah,
the caliber that we'd be looking for.
Very cool. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. We will get this interview out in a few days or so. So people will be kicking off. I can't believe my calendar on my computer here says it's September 1st today. Kind of blowing my mind. But people can listen to this episode. Really interesting to hear how you have the indoor grow set up and really dial it in. Some great lessons there, like make sure that your control boxes aren't directly under stuff that can leak into it. I can only imagine, like you were just talking about the troubleshooting process that you had to go through. Yeah, and then the making the RJ12 or the RJ45 connectors or whatever it is. I took a computer networking class in high school, so I knew exactly what you were talking about. But
as a little crimper.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I got a baby here that's starting to go crazy over the dancing strawberries on the TV right now, so I'm gonna run. But if you had a good time and listening or watching this episode, please like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube or on Spotify or your favorite podcast app. We're like out on everything. I think you can even listen to us on all sorts of different devices now, Audible, all sorts of things. So check us out over there. And as always, JR, growers love. Peace, everyone. Have a great afternoon.